Hello and welcome, powerhouses, sweet souls, to the Dating Without Nipples podcast, where we take the top off of insecurity and show up for our most courageous lives. I am so excited to introduce you today to one of my mentors and dear, dear friend, Holley Mignosi. Holley is a speaker, storyteller, and body language expert. She helps speakers and experts increase their influence and impact through the art of hypnotic body language and the neuroscience of storytelling. Holley is on a mission to help women express their soul's purpose on all of life's stages. With a combined 30 years of experience as a celebrity modeling and acting coach, fitness trainer, and public speaking coach, Holley has helped over 250,000 people embody their message and command the stage using her 5 phases of powerful storytelling framework. Holley has graced the stage with celebrity speakers such as Jack Canfield, Kim Kiyosaki, and Janet Atwood. She holds multiple certifications in mindset and physicality specialties such as neuro-linguistic programming, hypnosis, hypnotic presentation skills, and many other long words that sound very, very cool. Holley, thank you for joining me today in this conversation.
Hi, Alissa. Hi, everyone. Such an honor and pleasure to be here today. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. My pleasure. Now, I love this big, big, big success that you've been able to achieve, and I have personally learned so much from you. I also know, though, that your success comes from a personal journey that is quite in depth, and I'm hoping you will share that piece with us to start, your personal journey of how you got to where you are today.
Well, thank you for talking about so much success. It doesn't always feel that way, so I appreciate that. And humbly, I say, yeah, it really came out of a lot of trial and error and pain and challenges, and it definitely was not a smooth surface as far as a takeoff, and you're just taking off to this instant success. It really was a huge challenge. And if somebody would have told me years ago that I would be telling my story and all of the revealing all the skeletons in the closet, I would have said, oh, no way would I ever tell people some of the challenges that I've been through. Those are skeletons in the closet. They're going to stay there for a very long time. But it's so liberating to be able to share openly and authentically, which is why I'm so excited about being on your show, because I know you do that for all of your guests. And it just creates so much authenticity, like an authentic connection. Mm-hmm. And for me, it really started when I was in my early 20s. I was in the modeling and acting industry, and I was living what I would call my dream life. I was modeling and acting by day, doing fashion shows, and I was emceeing fashion shows, and I was also modeling in fashion shows, doing some small TV commercials and things like that in my hometown of Sacramento. And then at night, I was a modeling and acting teacher. So I got to help aspiring models and actors of all ages. My youngest students were age 4, believe it or not, all the way up to 74. People that just wanted to do it for fun, but also wanted to do it to actually make some money. So it was really great. I was doing what I loved. I was helping people, and I was making great money. Isn't that what life is all about? So I'm like, okay, I'm 22. I've arrived at success. That's it for me. And I thought everything was going great until everything came to a screeching halt. When my boss, John, one day he called all of us runway coaches into a room, and he announced that he was taking the company global. He wanted the company to be the #1 modeling and acting company in the world. And in order to do that, we had to look like celebrity models and actors. And that's when I knew, okay, I'm in trouble, because I don't look like a celebrity model. Celebrity models are 5'10", 5'11". I'm only 5'8". And they have a very specific physical structure. And let's just say I'm a little more curvy, I'm a little more athletically built than that thin, very specific kind of willowy build. And then John continued with a measuring tape. And he asked for each of us to stand on the runway as he measured us. He measured, literally, he measured us, our bust, our waist, and our hips. And then he made announcements as to how we needed to change. And he measured the first model and she was perfect. And he said, perfect. And I knew that he would because I knew her measurements were right on the money. Then he measured the second model and he said, perfect. And I knew he would because she was also idealistic in her physicality. And then he asked for me to come on the stage. And I was nervous and I was scared. And I kind of exhaled all my air to make myself smaller somehow, like that's going to somehow make myself smaller. And he measured my bust and my waist, which were fine. But when he got to my hips, they were not 1, not 2, not 3, but 4 inches too big. Now to you and I right now, 4 inches is like this much. It's not very much. But in the modeling and acting industry, it's everything. And he literally pointed to my hips, turned to everybody else and said, if any of you have this problem, fix it or you're fired. And in front of my peers, my coworkers, and I had hired some of those models and actors. So I was their manager and I felt ashamed and embarrassed. And prior to that, I had really good self-confidence. And I don't know if you've ever had the experience where you're walking along feeling great and then all of a sudden it feels like somebody pulls the rug out from underneath you. That's how I felt. I was the bad apple of the bunch. Everyone was perfect except for me. And in that moment, I did something that a lot of us do. I made the decision that I will never, ever, ever feel that level of pain again. And I started researching, how could I lose weight? Every diet, every pill, powder, and shake, I tried to take it, that was guaranteed to make you lose weight or your money back, but nothing worked because I was at my physical, I guess you could say, prime. I wasn't overweight. I was only a size 4. That's it. And there was just no way I was going to lose more weight. I was exercising, changing the way I was eating, and it wasn't happening until somebody put a little bag of white powder in front of me and said, try this. And that powder was cocaine. And I thought, I've tried everything else and it didn't work. I might as well try this. And I did it. And you know what? It worked. Within just a couple weeks, the inches came off. I'm walking down the hallways in my new sleek physique, getting compliments from coworkers, accolades from my boss. I got a raise. I got a promotion. And on the outside, it looked like everything was coming together. But on the inside, I was dying. I had headaches, heart palpitations, sleepless nights, and I felt like a fraud. I knew that if I ever quit, all the weight would come back. So I would try to stop and then it would come, I would start up again and try to stop and then I would start up again. And that was my relationship with drugs for a good 10 years, off and on, until I was in my early 30s. And I met someone, got married, we got pregnant, had a beautiful baby. Now I was able to quit while I was pregnant because it's okay to gain weight while you're pregnant, right? That's, I guess, what my mind thought. And it was okay to gain weight. And it was okay to be bigger. And I was still in the industry. But by the time she was 3 or so, we had some problems in the marriage. And that old frenemy of cocaine came back into my life. And so here I am, a mother of a 3-year-old, and I'm using. And then he was using too. We were both using to somehow medicate the pain that I was going through inside in the marriage and in my business, until one day it got really dangerous. And I walked into our house with my husband at the time after having a night of partying, and our little daughter looked up at us, and as I opened the doorway, she was there. It's like 6 in the morning. And she said, Mommy, Daddy, where were you? Play with me. And we had left her with our nanny. We had a live-in nanny that stayed with us. And so he looked at me and was like, I'm going to bed. And half out of guilt, as mothers do, and half out of just pure love, I sat on the floor, exhausted and tired, and played tea party with her. And then I got tired and kind of thirsty. So I went to the bathroom, started the kitchen, and got some water. And when I came back, she wasn't there. And so I checked her bedroom. She wasn't there. I checked her bathroom. She wasn't there. And I looked down the hallway, and as I looked down the hallway, there was just a few inches of a cracked door. And you know that feeling you get as a parent or an intuitive person, and you just know something's wrong. And as I opened our bedroom door, my husband was asleep in the bed to the left. And here she was sitting on the floor holding my drugs in her hands. and I was terrified. And I ran to her, checked her mouth really quick. I was so afraid that she had ingested something. I got there just in time, and she hadn't. So I grabbed the drugs, threw them in the bathroom, came back, and it was like this divine download, Alissa. All of a sudden, I heard these questions in this series. What if you hadn't gotten there in time? What if you had to call the police? What if they called CPS because you're both using? What if she got taken away from you? And then the worst question of all, what if she grew up and didn't know you, but she was just like you, using drugs? And I didn't like any of the answers to those questions. So I decided in that moment, I have to change. I must change. And I had no idea how, but I knew I needed to quit 3 things. I needed to quit drugs. I needed to quit my marriage because we're both using, and I needed to quit my job because the industry, if I quit using, the industry wouldn't tolerate my physicality, so I thought, and I needed to quit. And I had no idea how I was going to do it. And I had learned from the industry to fake it till you make it. That's kind of the motto in the modeling and acting industry at the time. But at that moment, life was teaching me to faith it until you could make it. I knew I needed to change or my daughter's life could be at risk, but I had no idea how. And it was like, okay, show me what to do. Like, I'm just like, I don't know how to do this. So I quit drugs, threw them all away, filed for divorce, and realized, and I quit cold turkey. I quit cocaine. I don't know if anyone's listening, if they've ever experienced this, but it is highly addictive. And the cravings were uncontrollable. So I would exercise. I would go for a run to shift my mentality or my physicality. And I knew I needed to get all the toxins out of my system. I knew I needed help getting healthy mentally and physically. So I hired a personal trainer. I hired Tom, the trainer. And he was tall, 6'2", dark, handsome, and his muscles had muscles. Like, he was like jaw-droppingly gorgeous. And I was highly motivated to not miss one workout. I went to all the workouts. So it worked. But, really, he completely changed my life because for the first time, he gave me compliments, not for being skinny, but for being strong. And not for not eating, but for eating the right foods. So it was a complete paradigm shift. And within just a few months, he was like, you know what, Holley, you're pretty good at this workout thing. I think you should be a personal trainer. And I'm like, all right, I think you're right. I think that could be my next journey. So 4 months after meeting Tom, he and I became partners, and we opened up Beyond Fitness Personal Training in Northern San Diego. It was a training studio, brick and mortar, and it was like instant success. And it was so much fun. I was finally getting to help women again and use all the things that I'd learned about weight loss, but in a healthy way, and the new things that I'd learned about being strong and exercise and weightlifting. And it was super fun. But, I found I still had a new problem. Alissa, my problem was that I was still hiding. I didn't want anyone to know that this person who was supposed to be a model of health and fitness was using drugs just 6 months prior. And so I was ashamed. I still had shame. I still had that piece of me that was like, nobody can know this or I'll be rejected. But it's so interesting how the universe has a way of healing you of those things. Sometimes it's like throwing you in, sink or swim. And sometimes it's with these gentle, loving, serendipitous kind of events. I ended up telling my story to one of my clients of using drugs. And she made these really powerful connections. And she said, oh, I get it. You weren't addicted to food, but you were addicted to drugs. And addiction's addiction. And I'm like, yeah, I never made that connection before. And so she started to tell my story to other people. And, maybe you've heard facts tell, but stories sell. So now she started to tell her friends, her family member, and everyone at her church. And I was totally shocked. Next thing I knew, we had a flood of new clients that wanted to come work out with me because of what I'd been through, which I never could have imagined, ever. I would have thought that would have been a deterrent. But to my surprise, it was like, okay, you went through that, you overcame that, then you must know how to overcome addiction too, whether it's addiction to food, alcohol, a habit, any habit. And so now I had a new problem. I had more clients and not enough time, which is like a quality problem. Like, that's the one we all want. And that's when I realized the power of storytelling. And I was like, wow, there really is something here. So I started studying storytelling with all of these great speakers, and the pieces kind of slowly started coming together. Like, okay, maybe I can take some of the background that I have from stage, acting, storytelling, which is a lot of storytelling, combine it with health and fitness and storytelling. And I actually thought I was going to go out and be a speaker again. I had the call to speak, but I thought I was going to be doing it on the topic of health and fitness. And the more I got into it, the more I realized I just love experts. I love entrepreneurs. And I felt a calling to really share what I learned about storytelling with other solopreneurs as the, online market started taking off. I just was fascinated by these stories of what people had been through. And I love helping them shape and create their story to have greater impact and to really connect with their ideal audiences in a way that creates transformation. So that's what got me to where I am now.
Absolutely incredible. Incredible. I heard in there multiple times of this imposter syndrome. It can weave its way through our lives in so many different ways. And the idea that we can take something that we think is the shame piece, that they can never know, or they'll think I'm a fraud, and turn that into the thing that makes us connect to them and shows us our heart. Now, we've worked together. I've worked with you because you're brilliant and I'm brilliant, and I recognize that. So I say, yes, please, Holly, I want everything.
I want some more of that. Yeah.
I want more of that. And one of the things that you say is to open the kimono. To open the kimono and show them a little bit of who you are. And it reminds me of the first time that we met at a seminar, because I remember it was a 3-day seminar, and there was the first 2 days of kind of checking everybody out and getting a feel for it. And the third day is when I heard a little bit more about you and your story. And I remember this huge relief of, okay, this makes so much sense now. She's a model. And it made me realize that there was a barrier between us that created by myself the first couple of days, because it was intimidating. Here's this tall, beautiful woman, so striking, owns the room and all those things. And it just really goes to show that when someone can see beyond the physical, well, the combination of being able to stand in your beauty and in that ownership and be so magnetic, but also to know how to connect with someone and say, I'm more than this, and I'm not trying to be more than you or push you away or stand for a level of perfection that I may feel attainable to other people, but I'm a very real person who's been through very real life experience. It's just so magnetic, and the heart, the kimono and the heart just open wide up. So
thank you.
Absolutely. And something I find really unique about you too, Holly, is that you bring everything in. So as opposed to saying, oh, modeling industry, that was hurtful, negative things came of that, it breeds insecurity, I need to get rid of that and do something new. Or, okay, health and fitness, that was fantastic, but here's this other thing. When people tell us to focus, you have a way of focusing all the good from each piece and bringing it forward. And I wonder where that comes from in you. Have you always been that way? Have you always been someone to just pull the positive from each thing? Or are there times in your life where you feel like, I need to reject this piece of me or this piece of my environment in order to save myself or move forward?
Yeah, thank you for that question. There was a couple different questions in there that I think I want to answer. So the first is, am I naturally a positive person? I think I am naturally a bit more of the glass is half full. The question is the glass half full or is the glass half empty? And I really like the quote, it's refillable. That's the point. It's not, is it half empty or half full? You can just refill it. And so I guess that is a little more optimistic too. And my mom always says that as a child, I was the glass, is half full, but I'm just like anybody else where, yeah, I have bad days and down days, and gravity's inevitable. We're all going to have days where, things are pulling you down. And specifically to get me through one of the hardest points, I've had several very challenging things in my life, but giving up an industry, the only thing that I knew, my first fashion show was when I was 7. My dad was in radio, film, and television, so I felt a very close connection to it, kind of in my blood. And then, in my 30s, I was 33, 34 when I left. I knew nothing else. My expertise, my schooling was in cosmetology. I thought I was going to own a hair and makeup studio or a hair salon. That's what I thought I was going to do. But I really had to reject everything about the modeling and acting industry and everything about drugs. Those two things, in order to save myself, I had to have a complete aversion to them. That pendulum had swung so far into the depth of the negative of those industries, the perfectionism, the constantly being judged. In the modeling and acting industry, every audition is hey, I hope they like me. And here's what's wrong with me today. That's why I didn't get that job. You're constantly putting yourself into the environment of critique, and it's harsh, and rejection. Because the average person, for myself, for example, I would go to 10 auditions before I'd get one. So it's interesting that I chose to put myself in that environment. Most people would run from that. I guess I'm one of the crazy ones. And what it taught me, about perfectionism, and I really believe that I had to go through those things in order to accept myself and all of my flaws at a deep level. So everything about the modeling and acting industry, I rejected, and everything about drugs, I rejected. And of course, there are some drugs that are very helpful, but in my mind, I had to just say all of that was bad to find, for my pendulum to swing all the way to this purity zone, I guess, so that I could swing back to the middle and find my balance. I think ultimately, I look now for balance. So how can I not call something completely black or white, right or wrong, but is this useful and beneficial in this particular context? In a certain context, critique is very helpful. What's great and what could I improve on? Very helpful. When it's consistent and when it's chronic, when things are chronic, whether it's chronic drug use, chronic critique, chronic self-imposed, I'm not good enough, that's where things can fall apart and become a problem. But if it's used in the right context, then I think it can be helpful. And I think it requires a non-habitual thought process where you look at each situation unique at that moment. Is this helpful to me right now? If not, what would be? How could I see this in a different way? So I think I ask myself different questions, if that makes sense, to evaluate how I am in the now.
And it sounds like you start that process by getting really, really present to each unique moment. And that's a really beautiful skill set. Speaking of beautiful, it seems that you also were able to carry through or pull through the positive of your natural love of beauty and femininity, and not just the fun of the hair and the makeup and the clothes and all of those things, your own beauty, but you have such an appreciation for femininity and beauty in general, all the different shapes and sizes and colors of a woman. And I believe that has what led you to study things like hypnotic body language.
Yeah.
And that I would love to hear a little bit more from the lens of your appreciation for it. That all of the things that are so hypnotic and so positive about women in all of their shapes and sizes.
Yeah, you mentioned quite a few things I would like to touch on too. When I was a modeling and acting instructor, some of you may be shocked to know that one of my favorite groups and my favorite class to teach are plus women, plus models. And in that industry, anyone over the size of 14, which is not really plus, but in that industry, anyone over size 14, which by the way is most of us, it's average, are considered plus. But the reason why is because these women just had so much more acceptance. And some of them were a bit fuller figured. So I would work with women between the sizes of 14 and 22. And there was a different level of, I'm confident in my body at any size. Watch me move my hips. Watch me make this turn. And it was like this kind of diva, like, I got it going on. And it was so freeing to feel like I didn't have to fit into a box, and neither do they. That you could be beautiful at any shape and size. And it truly was one of my favorite classes to teach, that and the kids. I love teaching kids as well. But the freedom of that, I think, is what I was really tapping into. And women, gosh, women just have this incredible ability, and they don't even know it. Some women know it, and they know how to use it, and they know when to use it, and some women abuse it. And then some women just don't know it at all. It could be natural beauty, that you don't wear makeup, that you don't wear a lot of stuff in your hair, and that you just have this radiant natural beauty that comes through. Or it could be the woman that loves hair and makeup, and she plays with color and lines and doing something different every day. We as women have this ability to self-express in a different way every day. Like, we don't have to be like, okay, this is always who I am. We can be anyone we want, and that variety is the spice of life. So if one day we want to go au natural and throw our hair up in a bun, which I'm so glad that became a style, like, yes, I can rock the everyday bun.
Yes.
Or whatever, we can have this creativity. And it's that self-expression and the self-acceptance that I think is truly hypnotically beauty. And when I say hypnotic, what I'm talking about is, I'm not talking about the hypnotic, like you're getting sleepy, you're falling asleep. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about the kind of hypnotic when a woman is walking down the street and you can't take her eyes off you. It doesn't matter if you're a man or a woman. You're like, wow, she's got something. Don't know what it is. And it may be the dress, maybe it's her new shoes, maybe it's just that she feels good that day. But she's got this magnetic essence that is radiating joy, love, femininity. And what really is femininity? Femininity is the ability to create, to be fertile. And it could be specifically fertile, as in create babies, but fertile as in self-expression, creation, exploration. What is it that you, as a woman, are naturally good at, you've been given? So for me, you're absolutely right. You know me well. I love beauty. It could be beauty in the garden. It could be a flower. It could be a hummingbird. It could be art. It could be the way that someone is doing their hair and makeup and self-expression. I love beauty. It could be furniture. I was just born that way. So I see beauty everywhere as a result. But what have you been given that is your unique self-expression that you are sharing out in the world? And if you find yourself feeling depressed, feeling down, more than likely you have a need that's not being met. And it's my belief that that need is to express your God-given gifts and talents. What are you here to express, to share out into the world? And one of the things for me is dance. I love to just move physically. It just makes me feel good. It's a state changer for me. And if I don't dance a little bit every week, I don't always feel good. And it could be very subtle. But then, I turn on some music, go in my studio, I'm all by myself, get a little jam on, whatever, and it just changes the way I feel. So what is the thing for you that is your natural gift that you're not expressing out into the world? And when you do, know that you are absolutely hypnotic, show-stopping. People want to watch and go, she's got something and I want some of that. That's what we want to bring to the stage, whether it's a real stage and you're speaking, or whether it's like life is a stage.
Absolutely. Someone connected to their own personality, their charisma, and whether they know it or not. And I think it takes this is where coaching is such an incredible thing. I think every woman, every person, man or woman, could be a coach and should have a coach, because we need to self-express and create, and the reflection of, oh, the reaction, did you see what you just did there? So often it's, I have no idea, what are you talking about? And so to have someone say that, and build it up. So it's less about saying, these are the rules, these are the points you need to hit, these, we're going to check all the boxes so that you can be beautiful. It's so much more being in the seat of the witness and getting someone to share, like you say, in their story. They share a little piece of their vulnerability and we see the secret sauce. And you're so good at that. And then saying, it's almost like a snake charmer. Okay, we're
Yes,
gonna
let's
draw
pull it out.
that
Yeah,
out.
let's draw it out.
We're gonna put that on stage. We're gonna work it. We're gonna let the world see that. It needs to be seen. It's here to be seen authentically and expressed. And then all the walls fall down. All the barriers of, we should look like this, should do that. And there's so much freedom and flow. I just think it's absolutely beautiful. What are some of your favorite moments on stage? What are some moments that you've had on stage that you just felt like, I am being so Holley right now and I'm killing it? Like, when it's just you jamming out you, right? And
oh my gosh.
yeah.
Okay, well, one of them that I think of is actually exactly, it's going to highlight what you just said. And it's one of my mom's favorite moments of seeing me on stage. And she reflected this to me. So that's why I remember it. And I know my mom's proud of me for it. And so that's what makes me feel really good about it. And it was when I was about 21. I was emceeing a big fashion show, and there was a drunk guy in the audience. And he started heckling. And I don't even remember exactly what he was saying, but it was like, girls, blah, 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 and yada, yada, outfit, whatever. I don't remember exactly what it was. But I was playful with it, and I asked him to come up on stage. And I was like, let me talk about your outfit, sir.
Wow.
He was like, what? Like, yeah, come on, stand up. What do you got on? Jeans, a little t-shirt, and do a little twirl. And he just shrunk and was like, oh, no, it's okay. But I wasn't doing it to embarrass him. I actually was doing it in a playful way, like, okay, he wants to engage. And I had absolutely no experience with hecklers. I was not trying to belittle him. I was just being playful. Thank goodness that he retracted. But even if he didn't, and he was like, yeah, I'll come up on stage, I still would have had fun with it. He would have had his moment. He probably would have fallen off the stage and been gone. You know? So that was really an interesting moment that I like to hold onto and remember that I do have the ability to be flexible, to be playful when life throws me that unexpected thing. Because the other way it could have gone was I ignore him and he gets louder. I ignore him and he starts to become aggressive. Right? It could have gone a very different way. So that was really neat to see that happen. And gosh, I think, this is interesting. Another moment I was really proud and had a lot of fun. I like fashion. So just being up in some cool clothes that just feel kind of fun and frilly and feminine. I just remembered being in a show and my dad was in the audience and he was just really proud, and just looking down and seeing my dad be really proud. And I just felt really expressive and fun. And you got to do a lot of turns and whatnot, which you don't always get to do. So that was pretty cool. And I remember a moment after emceeing a show that a little girl came up to me afterwards and asked for my autograph. And it wasn't that she asked for my autograph that was so touching. It was that she said, I want to be like you. I want to be up on stage and be talking like you did to the world. And it just was a reminder that when we're just doing our thing and we're having a great time, we're inspiring someone. We're helping them tap into their greatest gifts by us tapping into our greatest gifts and radiating that. And so in that moment and at that time, life was kind of superficial for me. But at that exact moment, it was a sweet reminder that there was something deeper going on and that I was doing something really meaningful. I wasn't just describing the latest in fashion and helping models get a paycheck. and doing some entertainment for people. Maybe I was really inspiring someone as a little girl. And maybe now she's all grown up and she's like, gosh, I remember that one show and that one lady. And that's why I'm a newscaster, or that's why I'm, doing this or doing that, or a podcast host. Mm-hmm. And it was just really a tender moment. So that felt really good.
Really, really beautiful. It reminds me, especially because of the piece with the little girl, it reminds me that sometimes when we're little and we want to be on stage and twirling and all of those things, that sometimes as a kid, I think we get shamed for, oh, you just want attention. And I know I received some of that. And then as we get older, if we have dreams or a calling to be on stage, we get that shame of, oh, you're just narcissistic.
It's not okay to want that.
Right.
It's not okay.
Why do you want to be seen? Why do you need to be seen?
Yeah, something wrong. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Right. And I think that it really highlights a couple of things. The first is how beautiful it is to have a witness in life, which just makes me grateful for my relationships and for the world. But in both of your stories, you clearly remember who was there watching, and that makes such a big difference. And so I just want anyone watching to recognize that we all deserve an audience and a witness to our dance, and there's no shame in that. And the other thing that comes up for me in that is the playfulness and the owning who you are and allowing people to see. So creating a channel, even if we're not really attached to how big the audience is, and some of us really want to make an impact in the world, others of us just want to dance in whatever expression that is. Dancing is the metaphor for self-expression. But to take the extra step to record it as a podcast, or to put it on a YouTube channel or TikTok, or on whatever it may be, lead a yoga class, whatever your gift may be, allow people a way to see it, because you never know who you're gonna inspire.
Yeah,
and
definitely.
Two things that came up for me too was that when you talked earlier about when you're feeling down, that it's so often because you're not expressing a part of yourself. And I think too that sometimes I notice when I'm feeling angry, specifically angry, it's because I'm not drawing a boundary somewhere.
Yeah, there's a rule that's been broken.
Right. And so I think that the way that you handled the heckler also reveals drawing a boundary to a certain degree, but in a way that was playful and effortless. And that's the other thing that I'm thinking is how free we are when we're just showing up. I think this is a Brene Brown thing. If I'm just showing up to be authentic, I can't go wrong. I can't go wrong as long as I'm being playful and being myself. So what are some things that you do with your clients and for yourself that keep things really playful? Because I know sometimes we have to put our big girl pants on, and there's real feedback that can be really constructive. Like you talk about that critique, because you do want people to improve. But what are some of the things that you do to help people relax and be really playful?
Well, the first thing is I have to get into state. So I have to turn myself on before I start my coaching or working with anybody. So often we can just go from task to task without taking that break and stopping and saying, what is my intention? How do I want to show up? Yes, authentic. Sometimes I don't want to be authentic to who I was 10 minutes ago. Sometimes it's like, okay, that Holley can stay back 10 minutes ago. I don't want to be her. But I think authentic and intentional are a great marriage to how to show up in the moment. So how am I intending to show up in the moment? And you and I were having a conversation about this in the green room before we started. With homeschool now, on our plate for those of us that have kids, I am setting the intention every morning to show up as a confident, fun-loving teacher to my son. To my clients, I'm confident, creative, loving leader. And to my son, I'm a confident, creative, and fun-loving teacher. So really having just a little bit of a kind of title I guess you could say, that I can tap into and just say really quick, I'm confident, creative, loving leader, confident, creative, loving leader. How would she move? Because our physicality puts us into a state. It's a feedback loop. Our physicality, how you move your body, then triggers how your state of being is. And then I do the same with my son. I know when my son and I, for example, like an hour before we came onto the show, we were working on history, and I needed to get into state because I just finished a coaching call. And I was not really excited about doing history. So we went outside and we played ball. Let's take a 10-minute break. We're going to play ball, just bounce a ball back and forth and get a little sunshine and move ourselves physically. So the things we can do to turn on and to get into state is be very intentional and authentic on who we are when we want to show up, and to shift our physicality. Really move your body, which is kind of why I think hypnotic stage presence and physicality is so powerful. I love studying it, but it's always been a part of my life. I think I intuitively just gravitate towards things that are physical and dancing and sports. So if you can move your body in the way that you as the leader would move, or you as the sensual you would move, or you as the fun-loving teacher would move, then it's easy. The rest of it just kicks into gear because the physicality and the mind are all a feedback loop. It's so much easier to start with your body and let the mind follow than to start with your mindset and let your body follow. It doesn't always work as easy that way. For example, when I'm doing fitness with my clients, and I still have just a few clients that I kept, even though I don't market, I don't have any new clients that I work with health and fitness. I just have my few elite clients. Sometimes they can come in and say, I barely made it. I didn't want to come. I don't feel like working out. And then we do some deep breathing and we move our body in a certain way. Okay, just pull your shoulders back with me. I do a couple of form corrections. Pull your shoulders back, breathe a little deeper. And how would you stand if you were feeling really good today? And then within seconds, they're like, how'd you do that? I feel a little better.
I'm here now.
I'm here and I actually feel okay. And always by the end of the session, I'll say, how do you feel? Rate the session 1 through 10. And they'll always go, okay, it's an 11. How did you do that? It was like a -11 before I came in. We just moved your body and breathed into who you wanted to be. And the rest of it, you just show up that way.
Physicality and mindset, so incredibly powerful. And I know there's so much more. Everything you've shared is so helpful and so very true. I think we can feel it just watching your physicality. And there is also so much more. So I'm going to ask a final question. Then I would love if you would tell us where people can reach out to you to learn more.
Yes. Will you go ahead? I'm like, yes, here's where you can find me.
No, that's okay. We can definitely leave room because I am Holley's biggest fan, and hopefully there's testimonials that I've provided all of the things that people, all of the places they can find you, and they're all very, very genuine. So with your generosity, Holley, and your confidence and your leading, I would love if you would open up to lead by example, and after all of your giving, be an example of receiving. So is there something, some energy, some intention, anything that I could send to you back that the audience watching can send good vibes your way? What is something you would love to receive today?
Well, we were joking in the green room, you kind of told me a little bit about this question, and we were joking that, could you ask for the bald spot on my hair to come back from pulling out my hair from homeschooling? Can that come back? So other than that, I just have this really, I guess my ask would be to just send energy and vibes that my ultimate vision comes true. And that really is that women are really expressing their soul purpose on stage. And that's kind of how I say it, but really all of life is a stage. So I would love to see 1 million women consistently tapping into the fullest expression of who they are in the most positive ways. And sometimes I know that's not going to be positive if you're not having a good day or a bad day, but the true power of self-expression in a way that is uplifting and inspiring to others, I think if we could consistently remember that we always have a choice on how we show up in the world, we can we can even imagine that we're somebody else. We can pretend that we're Marilyn Monroe for the day. We can pretend that whoever your role model is, you can show up that way and just imagine that you're them and show up that way and see how it affects your world. And we can become better mothers, better sisters, better wives, and female role models to the world. Because my husband says, it's not a kingdom, it's a queendom. And the sooner we all realize that, the better off we're all going to be. And certainly not to take anything away from the men, because we need the men. We need them to be a rock, to let us be the crashing waves, that we can be in full expression, and for them to be that rock for us, so that we can be in that ebb and that flow. And my vision is to help women get on stage, for those leaders and experts that really want to shine on stage and be that powerhouse, that warrior woman in all the different expressions of the archetypes. If you're the lover, if you're the innocent child, if you're the warrior, the sage, just to be that on stage and off stage, and to have those barriers of perfectionism and shame that you're not enough, or you're not perfect enough, or you're not beautiful enough, to have those just broken, so that we have a new level, a new playing field of what beauty is, and what leadership is as a woman, and what nurturing is as a woman, and what receiving and giving is as a woman in our own unique expression.
So gorgeous. You are out there lighting fires, and we're going to send tons and tons and tons of more light and warmth and love to that mission, because we can all benefit from it. Absolutely gorgeous. Thank you. And where can people find you to learn more? Because I will say, it's whether you want to be on stage or not, you want to play this fun. You want to see yourself through Holley's reflection, and in this magnificent, playful, authentic, fun, empowering, as you say, that power, empowering way. So where can people learn more, Holley?
So you can find me in my Facebook group, which is called Shine on Stage, simply Shine on Stage on Facebook. And I'm in there all the time. You can message me. I am a real person. I will really get back to you and answer your questions. If you have questions about how do you start to tell your story? How do you become more expressive? How do you feel better about yourself in your own body? How do you flirt? Even with physicality and body language and flirting, how do you flirt? There are certain body language signals of flirting, like playing with your hair, or licking your lips, or moving your hips. There's all kinds of fun stuff. So I just put some stuff up around flirting, so your audience might like that. And then I also have a free gift. Would it be okay to share my free gift?
Absolutely, yes. Thank you again for your generosity.
Yeah, I just updated my free gift, and I'm really excited about it. So it's the 15 hottest hand gestures that you can use to add sizzle to your communication style. And I also added 5 of the top flirting cues, the things that you can do to look for, to see if someone is attracted to you, and for you to be more attractive. And it even works if you have a mask on. So we're good.
I love it. You say flipping the hair, and I was going, oh, I think I've been flirting with you, Holley.
Yeah,
I think I've been flirting with you.
She's
this
like,
whole
wow.
call. That's fantastic. I know my initial questions in working with you was, how do I tell my story without sounding like a victim?
Yeah.
How do I know which story to tell? It's multi-layered, and who, if I'm telling it to this person, there's so much to it. It's so
what do I leave in? What do I leave out? What is too much? What is not enough? Yeah.
Right. Really effective, and really the faster that we can learn to tell the parts of our story that reflect who we are, the more that we can just connect with people almost instantaneously. And that is such a joy. So
yeah, and it's so healing. I think the thing that I love to see every time I work with someone on story is inevitably they'll always come back and say, I did not expect the healing that occurred. And I'm like, yeah, that's kind of a side bonus.
I
because,
remember.
yeah, you're showing all the skeletons in your closet. So you don't come to the table with that feeling like, oh, is someone going to reveal something that I don't want to talk about? Because you already did it. It's all good.
And you're right. It's a healing journey in itself, even if you never tell the story to a single soul. And I talked about that witness. So even if it's your kitty or your dog, I recommend saying it out loud to someone for the healing properties. But I remember in your 30-day intensive, which you may or may not be doing, I'm sure people can reach out. I remember when I was sitting down and the story was starting to come together, and I recognized I have to be the one to allow this story to be healed in order to tell it in this new way. Am I ready for that? Am I ready to not just forgive and forget by any means, but am I ready to heal? And that was a moment where I made a commitment to say, no, this is my story as I choose to tell it, as it can empower me and others. And I thank you for that. And I thank you for being here today. It's always such a joy to interact with you. Everybody, please, until next time, you can find Holley, but in the meantime, be playful, be fun, be sassy, swing those hips.
That's right. Be hypnotic.
Rock everybody into trance as you're walking down the street in the grocery store, whatever it may be. And please give us the gift of self-expression so that we can see and cheer you on. Until next time, everybody, thank you so much.